Hello, everyone. This is Sherry Greenhouse, Managing Partner of CRM Exchange. Welcome to our third session for today, Making QA Count, Using Analytics to Focus on Business Outcomes, presented by Patrick Boats, VP of Workforce Optimization for VPI. I'm sure at this point you all know you can get your PDF of slides and recordings on eCRM events on the Agenda tab, and within 24 hours, there will be the recordings up on that Agenda tab also. Just look at the webinar name right next to it, the slides and the recordings, and remember to stop by the exhibit hall. VPI has a lot of really great white papers and case studies. You want to make sure you go into their booth and download all of that into your virtual briefcase. We will be asking questions at the end of this presentation. And I'm sure, again, you know how to use the console. You've been sitting through a couple of the webinars. Just as a brief reminder, in the QA tab, all the way at the bottom, that's where you're going to ask your questions. If you find you have any technical questions, if you're streaming and you're hearing through the computer, occasionally streaming will go in and out. You want to address that to the WebEx producer. Over on chat, you'll see a send to. WebEx producer is one of your options. Otherwise, if you have something you want to chat to all the panelists, go ahead and you can chat it there. Now, Patrick Boats serves as Vice President of Workforce Optimization for VPI, a leading provider of analytics-driven contact center quality assurance, performance management, and workforce optimization solutions. Leveraging more than a decade of field experience as a contact center management practitioner, he focuses on the mission-critical aspects of capturing customer intelligence and optimizing business processes and workforce performance. Patrick has an MBA from Pepperdine University and a BSc in engineering from Arizona State University. We're going to learn a little bit about today's agenda, and here's the type of things we're going to be talking about. First of all, what's driving the need for change? Second, we're going to discuss the difference between the old way of doing QA and the new closed-loop automated process. Third, Patrick's going to discuss how to get more value from your current QA program by using analytics, workflow automation. Then he'll go on to the value of timely, targeted coaching and addressing agent skill gaps identified by analytics. And finally, why you should adopt the new QA approach based on proven benefits and rapid ROI. VPI, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the company. They have been in this space for over 15 years. As you can see from this chart, they rate very highly within the industry, and they partner with all of the top communication providers. So now it is my pleasure to turn this webcast over to Patrick.
Thank you, Sherry, and good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here today with you. I'll start off by getting into what's really driving the need for change in the way we do quality assurance today. And I'll let you take a minute and look at this slide here. But this is the main driver. So as you can see, competition is getting very fierce, and thus the need to focus on customer experience and business issues and not just internal agent compliance. So as things get more fierce in the marketplace and in this economic environment, there's a lot of factors that we're seeing in the marketplace. So kind of above the iceberg here, the things that we see outside of the business, more demanding customers, a lot of mergers and acquisitions, right? Multiple platforms in different environments, causing for workflow that's disjuncted, lower margins on products and services. We're in a bit of a recessionary environment. Obviously, customers have more choices and substitutes for the products and services that you offer. And we're in this multi-channel environment now. So social media, text messaging, email, web chat, as in the contact center space, we're being asked to handle all of this effectively. And then often, some companies are facing declining sales revenues, and they have to maximize profit within that environment. So kind of behind the scenes, under the iceberg, if you will, internally, some of the things that these are causing is these siloed systems and data where we may have reports for every different system and have multiple different systems that have separate reports. There's not always good workflow and integration between those systems. We're being asked to handle not only inbound, but inbound and outbound calls to proactively reach out to customers to to try to not only maintain them, but get more revenue from them. And then inconsistent service, that's one of the things we're seeing across channels. So it's very important to have a consistent multi-channel experience and not for customers not have to repeat themselves across channels. And we're just always getting more and more metrics and more data, and more metrics and data isn't always better, right? So it's not the more metrics you have. It's really trying to take those metrics and focus down on what really matters to your business. Same thing is happening in QA as we're seeing a shift from kind of this random QA that's focused on the agent to QA that is very targeted toward customer issues and business objectives. So what does quality assurance look like today? So an agent may say, hey, I followed that process exactly, and from a customer standpoint, it didn't really go the way they wanted. So that's very common. If you think about it, is it possible to get a really good QA score and have a poor customer satisfaction score on that same call? Probably, right? And vice versa, have a really great customer satisfaction score, but a poor QA score. So both of those apply. Here's a nice quote. The quality is not the absence of defects as defined by management, but it's really the presence of values defined by the customer. So if we're not solving the customer's issues and we're not achieving our business objectives, all the internal agent compliance really doesn't add that much value. So that is what's driving kind of a major shift. There's a big gap in quality and customer satisfaction today, and we're seeing more and more organizations measure them side by side. For each call, they're measuring what was quality assurance score, what was the customer satisfaction score for that call, and kind of if there's a gap, let's find out why. But recently, a study was conducted by COPC, and they found that there's a typically as much as a 30-point difference between reported internal customer satisfaction or quality scores and external customer satisfaction scores. So a huge gap that we really need to work on closing that gap. And customer experience today. So overall in the industry, or contact center, I wouldn't really call it an industry, but customer-facing operations, we're not doing really well in the phone channel. Only 45% of consumers are satisfied with the experience they've had on a phone through the phone channel. But when you get down into some of the other multi-channel interactions, such as speaking with the company rep over chat or IM, we're doing even worse. So only 28% are satisfied. So we have a big room for improvement. And focusing on business outcomes and the customer experience and customer issues is really going to help improve that. So what are the results of poor customer service? You may have seen some of these statistics in the past that 68% of customers will stop doing business with you because of poor service. And they will not only tell 11 people now, but with social media, they can quickly tell thousands of people, hundreds within their own network, and then thousands if it's on Twitter or a public network. And they do. I mean, there's case after case of people sharing that information. Again, if it's a great customer experience, they'll also share that as well. So really have an opportunity on every single interaction to make that call or that email or that web chat or that series of conversations count. So everything. Nowadays, when people call into your contact center or contact you, they've most likely tried to service themselves via other methods, via the web, via the IVR, via other channels. By the time they get to your agents, it's probably a pretty important call that they couldn't handle. So call center nowadays, we're getting the tougher calls, right? So we're getting the calls where, I tried to solve this online, and now it's my only option is to actually call. And some people, depending on demographics, call no matter what. But we're seeing more and more people try to self-serve themselves and then call in. And then so we're getting kind of the harder calls, if you will, and that makes QA even more important. That with the fact that if we don't do it well, that experience could be shared very quickly through social networks. So traditional quality monitoring, the feedback that we get over and over from our people that we speak with in the industry is it's just not responsive or detailed enough and focused really just narrowly on agent performance rather than business outcomes. These are some of the challenges that we typically hear from organizations that we speak with. So are any of these familiar with you? Difficulty in designing evaluation criteria, maybe lack of buy-in by not only the agents, but maybe senior management or executives, right? Are they really feel like they're getting value from your quality assurance program? It's not cheap, right? You need to put a lot of time and resources to evaluating these calls. Are you really getting the value out of it that you'd like to get or that you could be getting? Lack of automation is a big one. Untimely and ineffective feedback. So getting feedback to the agents in a very timely manner, and allowing them to also provide feedback back. Are you able to do that? And then inconsistent results over time, right? Calibration becomes really important, but it's one of those things that has to be ongoing. And again, a lot of times we're starting to calibrate more around the customer experience, but some organizations are still very focused on agent compliance and agent performance. And then, poor system reliability or support, that's something we hear sometimes as well. So what are the challenges? Traditional QM, typically, as I mentioned, we're evaluating agent adherence to internal policies and procedures. Maybe we're monitoring script adherence or looking for opportunities to improve agent productivity and trying to identify agent training needs. All this is great, but there's a huge opportunity to do much more than quality assurance. Right now, these are very tactical things. So quality assurance has been very tactical for the last 30 years. We have an opportunity to make quality assurance much more strategic because we are listening to these interactions and evaluating these interactions to be able to share customer insights and solve business problems and let that be known throughout not only the contact center but throughout the organization can make quality assurance much more strategic. And also, from your standpoint of view, really give you visibility within the organization as well. So most contact centers will listen to thousands of transactions a month, yet they typically don't report on the key business issues. And it's tough to, right, when you're randomly evaluating, 3 to 5 calls per agent per month or maybe 10 calls per new hire, and they're all different types of calls. It's really difficult to find out what those key business issues or customer experience issues are because you're not really gathering that information. It's just not part of the QA process many times today. The majority of problems that are unresolved issues, and this is based on another study by CLPC, are not agent related. So we're spending a lot of time focusing on agent performance, agent compliance, agent quality. But we may be missing out on all the non-agent related issues that actually are occurring within the contact center. So one example when they did this study is, one customer had, these are some of the non-agent related issues that were coming up, and they weren't initially being addressed within the QA process. So misrouted calls, there was company policy or process limitations. Agents didn't have the ability to make decisions and issue credits and things like that. There are some technical system limitations and customer issues. All of these weren't being evaluated in the original QA process. Again, they make up typically 68% of issues are not agent-related. So what does the workflow look like in traditional quality monitoring? And this is typical, probably I would say about 80-85% of organizations are still doing quality monitoring this way. Again, there's a kind of a rapid shift that's occurring. But typically, let's say an agent handles 3,600 interactions per month. We take a random or a sample. Even if we're recording all calls, we still randomly sample that 3,600 interactions, maybe get 3% or 3 calls per month or whatever it is that we're deciding. Maybe we're just doing selective recording just to get a random sample. And then we kind of manually find relevant calls. So even though we're, quote, pulling a random sample, a lot of times we look for the longer calls or short calls or things based on the data we have. And it's not much data you typically get with traditional call recording. You're getting the length of the call, the agent that took it, maybe the number it came in on, the time. And so we look for long calls a lot of times and try to evaluate those. And a lot of times we spend time just, listening to calls, just to even see if they're worth evaluating, right? Kind of randomly, this one's not that worth it. Try this one, let's try this. So it's not really that objective all the time anyways. I'd say we evaluate 3 calls per agent per month. The result is a sampling rate of only 0.083%. So it's not really a valid sample anyways. Because you're evaluating such a large amount of interactions, and 3 of those doesn't really give you an objective sample anyways. So what you're getting when you evaluate 3% of those calls is a lot of low-value calls. Really what we're trying to do when we say targeting business outcomes is the high-value calls. We're looking for either the worst practice calls or calls where customers had an experience or agents did something wrong, or we're looking for, to the far left here of the bell curve and to the far right, trying to actually get to those calls so we can spend our time evaluating those calls and make our resources worth the effort versus evaluating a lot of low-value calls, many which might not even be coachable. So evaluating low-value calls only adds to the cost of an already expensive QA process. So then what we do, if we follow the circle, the 4th pie here at the bottom, piece of pie, we use the same evaluation form typically for all call types. We may have 2 different evaluation forms, but in most cases, organizations are using the same form for all calls now. Whether it's a canceled account, whether it's a fair call, whether it's, whatever type of call, we typically try to fit it into a single form. If you're already using multiple forms, you're already going down the right direction. And then we score calls by entering data into, static forms or spreadsheets, which is typical. And then a lot of manual reporting. So you've probably seen it where sometimes, at the end of the month, everyone's doing their QA evaluations that they need to get done that month. And when we provide that feedback to agents, it's not really timely, but it could have been a call from the beginning of that month, and by then the agent's already kind of forgot about that call. So we typically give feedback at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and it's just not timely. It's not as relevant and powerful as it could be. And then we train agents on everything that needs improvement. So we may have heard that month, certain QA analysts or supervisors saying, well, we need to improve this, or we need to improve this, we heard this. And so we'll pull agents into a classroom and train them on everything. Again, these are just overall typically what we see. You may be advanced in certain pieces of parts of this pie, but this is an overall kind of summary. So analytics-driven quality, right, that's focused on business outcomes. What is the difference, and why is there such value with that? And why are so many organizations really shifting their QA model to this type of a model? I'm going to go through a case example here, and we're going to call this company your favorite wireless company. And it could be any company. It could be, cable company. It could be any product or service that you have, no matter what industry you're in, or whether it's healthcare or a services industry or whatever it may be. Just kind of take your company and plug it into YFWC, your favorite wireless company. So they have a campaign, and there's a new phone model that launched that they support, the iPhone 4S launch. There's an upsell campaign that they want to do, so the iPhone 3G users, the previous phone, can upgrade to the iPhone 4S for only $50 per phone with a 2-year subscription. So you can kind of put in whatever kind of campaigns you would have here, but I'm going to take you through a case so I think you'll really begin to see the value of using analytics within this case. So then the next step, the first piece of the pie within an analytics-driven approach is to really define and quantify your business objectives. And any of you that are familiar with Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma, an analytics-driven approach really follows that type of work, that type of process to define, measure, analyze, improve. First, you're going to define your objectives. What are the pain points and challenges? Who's going to be, kind of taking the lead on this project? YFWC's objectives here were to quickly identify issues and opportunities by type, analyze and provide insight root causes of issues. They want to accurately measure and improve first contact resolution. So first contact resolution is very closely related to customer satisfaction. It's like a one-to-one correlation. So many organizations come to us and ask, us to help them improve first contact resolution. The great thing is you can actually do that within your quality program, which people don't realize, and I'll show you how. Rapidly communicate issues and resolution tips to clients and agents. And they want to also notify their marketing department of customer issues or product issues so they can take proactive action on those and maybe, share things they're doing out in the social media world or kind of stop things before things bubble up out there in social media. And they want to cross-sell additional products and services when appropriate. So some of these goals may be common to what your organization would like to do on certain campaigns, but we'll kind of show you how we address each of these goals within an analytics-driven QA approach. So typically to prepare for the campaign, we're going to now record all interactions. So even though in the past we may have been recording all calls, we weren't necessarily using the value of that all the time, maybe for compliance reasons if we needed to pull a call because there was dispute resolution or something. But we weren't necessarily using it to its full value within the QA process. So we're going to record all interactions, and not just telephone interactions, voice conversations, but also email, web chat. A lot of the new quality monitoring systems will allow you to do that very cost effectively. Record screens as well, so if agents are on the actual, while they're navigating through the applications, you can see how they're doing, not only during the call, but after the call during wrap time. Are they hiding out in wrap time? Are they putting in the data as effectively as they could be during and after the call? So then what we're going to do, the second step within the analytics-driven approach is to tag as much valuable data and events to your interaction recordings as you can. So that's where the analytics really come in. So analytics, what it really does, there's a lot of different types of analytics. There's desktop analytics, speech analytics, data analytics, performance analytics. Really what it is in a QA environment is tag as much of that information that you know about the applications you're using on the call, the customer, the products you're servicing, while you're on that call. Tag as much of that information to the call as you can. In the case of speech analytics, you're basically trying to tag the phrases or the words used during that call to the call. So we're tagging as much data as we can to the actual interaction. and recording screens as well. Screen recording, we talked about the value on a voice conversation, is that you can see what they're doing while they're on the call. It's really valuable for web chat interactions as well. So oftentimes you may have people chatting with 6 different people at a time, and if you're recording both monitors or there's 3 monitors, you can see how they're doing handling multiple chat sessions, and QA those just like you would a voice conversation. So what we want to do, and I mentioned tag as much useful data and events as you can to the calls or to the interactions. So what we want to do is really identify repeat calls here, because one of the main objectives this company has is to not only identify repeat calls, but improve and solve first contact resolution. And they're also interested in upselling and cross-selling products. So we're going to, in order to determine upsell attempts with no sale, where there's room for improvement on upsell opportunities, the things we're going to tag from the applications to the call are customer ID, a disposition or a reason code. Typically, there's some sort of wrap-up code or some disposition code, so we know the call type. The order ID, any product that we're attempting to upsell, and the sale amount. So all this information lives on the applications that your agents are using. And I want to introduce, for those of you that you may be familiar with desktop analytics, it basically pulls data directly from the applications. Well, now you're able to tag that data you're pulling from desktop analytics to each call within the QA application. So it's really revolutionizing contact center analytics because it's pennies on the dollar compared to other analytics solutions out there that take a lot of processing and tuning. This is literally, we're just going to grab as much information from the desktop and tag it to the recording as we can. So an example of what it would look like. Let's say this is your agent's applications. In this case, it's your favorite wireless company's application. They're pulling up a customer account. Advanced Tech is one of their customers. We're going to pull account number, case ID, the phone model, the disposition code, and the notes. And all of that gets tagged, if you look below, to the media player. Everything gets tagged to the actual interaction. And all that becomes searchable, and even more importantly for QA, can be used in rules to send certain types of important calls or interactions to QA evaluators to evaluate. So basically what an analytics-driven approach will do is it'll take the recorded files, the call audio, the screen video. It'll take as much data. In traditional recorders would just take the metadata, the call metadata, the time, the date, the agent that took it. Well, now we're going to add as much data as we can to the actual call or the interaction from the applications that the agents are using. So if you think about it, if an agent's on a call and you can't hear what they're saying, but you're standing behind them, can you tell what type of call they're on and what they're doing? Most of the time you can, because you're actually, there's fields of data and comments and things that they're putting in and pulling up, and certain screens they go into while they're on that call. So you can often tell what type of call it is and flag that if it's an important call. And what it does is automatically assembles interactions, and you basically decide what buckets are important to you for QA. So if you're trying to improve first contact resolution, which YFWC here is, you bucket all your repeat calls automatically. If customer retention is important, you may want to look at canceled accounts or canceled orders and see why people are canceling their accounts or orders. If you want to optimize handle time, you might want to bucket calls by type and look at handle time by type. And maybe transfers is a huge one. It really makes customers upset, and it's one of the highest. First contact resolution is the highest correlating factor to customer satisfaction in many cases. but transfers also really upsets customers as well. Being put on hold, right? Maybe one hold or hold time or multiple holds. Those can all be bucketed as well. And then, look for accelerating sales or upselling. Look for upsell attempts where there was no sale. And that's what we're going to be doing here in this case example. In collections, maybe they're waiving late fees. Why are they doing that? Or they're issuing credits. And maybe there's high handle time with no promise to pay. Maybe that's something we'd want to look at. So you can easily bucket all your different types of interactions using analytics. So the campaign results, right? So we launched our campaign. The new phone came out. We're getting a lot of incoming call volume that's higher than what we originally expected. Higher handle times. Actually getting declining first contact resolution rates and disappointing upsell and sales conversion rates. So this is an example of a manager ticket here, and they can see that a lot of these issues are occurring. Things typically turn red or green if they're going down or improving. And so how do I prioritize the issues that we want to solve? And this is extremely important when you're kind of transitioning from traditional QA to an analytics-driven approach. Analytics is going to bucket all your call types that are important to you. So there's often there's a rush to just try to listen to all those different buckets, and it's really important that you start simple, start with certain things that are intuitive, that are easy to do. Some of these you may be able to do now without analytics. If you're getting transfer events and holds, maybe high handle time, which you can be typically getting with the traditional system that you have today. Start looking at those. Those are intuitive. Those are easy wins, and it gets you in the process of, all right, we're still going to evaluate all calls that were put on hold for this long this month. And not every agent will take those, but the majority of agents do that. So we're still going to evaluate the agents. We're also going to figure out why we're putting these customers on hold for this long. So that gets the process going. So I always recommend start simple, start with something intuitive, and then start working your way up the apple tree, if you will. Best in class, kind of a little bit higher, working your way up would be an upsell attempt with no sale, right? So that's kind of something that it requires a little more data. When you get into first contact resolution, that's really best in class. That's you're looking not only at repeat calls, but I chatted with you, I emailed you, I called you 3 times, and all that needs to be evaluated within the QA process. But start simple. Start with what you can do today, whether it's calls that were transferred, calls that had high handle time, put on hold, and develop a formal process of evaluating those, and then to solve those issues, and then work your way up to some of the other important business issues and customer experience issues that matter. So, along those lines, this is a control impact matrix that really helps out typically. If you look in the top left corner, there's kind of the high control, high impact. So you want to focus on ones that you actually have control over. A lot of times, we don't have control, right? So those are still important. We need to know about those. They're high impact, but we don't have direct control. We have to involve other departments within, maybe it's logistics or product development or, another department. Maybe it's marketing. Those are still very important, but start with the ones that are high impact within your contact center and high control, and then you can work on high impact with lower control. You've got to get other departments in, and then high control, low impact. And then the triple many, the low control and low impact, those are ones you're actually trying not to listen to and evaluate within the new QA process, because those are just wasting resources. So first contact resolution, I mentioned, has very high impact. Customer satisfaction is typically 35% lower when a second call is made, and 15% of customers who don't get their inquiry resolved are likely to go to competitors versus just 1% when you resolve it on the first contact. So this is the reason why many organizations are really focused on first contact resolution, but not many have thought about doing it within their QA program. Some people do track first contact resolution within QA, and I'll get into what the challenges with that are, but it's really, QA is an excellent vehicle to help improve first contact resolution versus just adding a question on the QA form. Was this issue resolved? And I'll talk about some of the challenges with that methodology. It also dramatically reduces costs. So this is astounding, but 66% of contact center costs today are due to callback. So that's a dramatic amount. If you can reduce your FCR by just a couple percent, think of the cost you're saving. And the cost of a complaint call not handled right away on the first contact escalates by 500% when it has to be escalated. If it goes to Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, it gets very expensive. And here's just a correlation to show you how there's a direct correlation between FCR and customer satisfaction. So how to accurately measure first contact resolution. So we mentioned, I briefly mentioned that some organizations are putting a question within their QA form to ask if the issue was resolved. Some people ask the customer after on a post-call survey or maybe an email survey, was their issue resolved? The challenge with that is if I have a billing issue and I contact you and, you ask me, what is your issue resolved? And I give you my new address, right? Maybe it keeps getting sent to the wrong address. And I say, yes, it was resolved, but then 30 days later I get my bill in the mail again and it's still not resolved, then that issue really wasn't resolved, and I call in again and I'm costing you money. So the beauty of analytics is not only are you tagging all this data to calls, but you have all this data to run calculations and run metrics on, so you can measure FCR more accurately. So what are the things you really need to measure FCR, right? You need to know who is the customer. So there's a lot of ways to capture that. You can either capture it from your IVR, ACD, maybe it's entered by the agent on the actual call, or maybe it's captured from your CRM system. And then you need to know why they're contacting you, because you only really want to flag repeat calls for the same reason, right? Not just every repeat call. You can do that. That's a good start, just to listen to every call, why these customers are calling you. But really what you want to do is focus on the ones where they're calling you for the same reason. And that could be either captured from the IVR or incoming phone numbers, case ID or service ticket IDs, reason codes entered by the agent into the CRM system, or more and more people using desktop analytics to identify all the reasons someone calls. So a reason code will typically just capture one reason someone called. Desktop analytics can follow them through the applications and tag multiple reasons they were on that call to the call. So if they call in for any one of those reasons again, it'll flag that interaction. And then when did they last contact you for the same reason? And different departments or different call types, you might want to set different thresholds. Maybe for this type of interaction, it should really within 15 days, if they haven't called back, we're good. We know we're not going to consider that a repeat call if they call back on day 16. Some it may be 90 days. It all depends on what the life cycle of the product or service or the issue that you're solving is. So in this case, at YFWC, they've decided they're going to capture who is the customer information from the CRM system, their support system, and basically pulling the customer ID or the account ID. Why are they contacting you? They're going to grab the reason codes entered by the agent into that system, and when did they last contact you for the same reason? In that case, it could be set up as 60 days. So what happens in an analytics-driven QA approach is not only is it going to tell you that this is a repeat call, but it tells you why. So you get basically buckets of, all right, here's your repeat calls because of website errors, and people are calling in because of order status or product issues, billing inquiries, password resets, because you have all that data that you're just tagging to the interaction. And then what you get is a timeline of not just the last call or the last interaction you had with that customer, but you actually get every interaction within that 60-day period that customer had. So when you're QAing, you can actually listen to the entire customer experience. Did the customer have to repeat their information over and over every time they called in? Why are they having to call in again? And it's all right there for you versus just one kind of segment or the last segment, their last call. In this example of a Pareto chart, the same issues that you bucketed, it basically allows you to see it in graphical format, so you can see 81% of repeat calls are due to billing inquiries, and it's pretty common to see this kind of 80-20 type of rule where 80% of all repeat calls are being driven by one or two issues. And so if you focus on solving the billing inquiry issue, maybe it's something that you could put on the website or proactively reach out to customers, or maybe it's a system error that you're having that you need to correct, then you've solved 81% of your repeat interactions. So then what you're going to do is you're going to do a targeted selection of interactions. So this is how you kind of take, all right, you figured out what bucket's important to you. In this case, it's repeat calls. We're also interested in, these are repeat billing inquiries. We're going to try to solve that 80% or 81% of repeat calls that are coming in. So now what we're going to do this month is we're going to sample 3 of 200 repeat billing inquiries per agent per month. Every agent takes repeat billing inquiries where a customer had to contact us again. And so we're still going to evaluate the agent, but now what we're going to do is we're going to dive in a little deeper on our QA form as to why these customers are contacting us again. So by sampling 3 of 200 repeat billing inquiries, we get a much higher sampling rate than we would before, where we were sampling 3 out of 3,600 out of all the calls that they're taking. And then basically what the automated workflow does is assign that to the evaluator. So each evaluator gets a to-do list of the calls they need to evaluate and why they were tagged, what was the rule that tagged them. In this case, this evaluator has a call that was tagged by a repeat billing inquiry rule, and they basically evaluate that call. They get a targeted evaluation form that has some additional questions about repeat or first contact resolution in them, and I'll show you that here in a second. And it's also delivered typically with screen video. So these are the additional questions that we're going to add to the QA form, and you can do this already. So on your QA form, you might want to start digging in and getting into more of the drivers. So why was the issue not resolved? There could be agent-related issues or non-agent-related issues that you can add to your form. So in this case, agents weren't disclosing fees associated with a lot of electronic payments, and they were providing unclear and incorrect information. Some of the non-agent-related issue that was coming up most was it was difficult to find that information on the website that they were looking for. And so now you're gathering additional data for those repeat billing inquiries. And then we need to come up with an action plan. So, we're going to coach and train agents on electronic payment strategies and other billing skills, train agents to upsell and cross-sell additional services, route calls to the best agents with specialized skills associated with billing, reduce call volume. A lot of companies are starting to use virtual call agents or IVR to automate billing processes, and put common inquiries on web self-service. And then we're going to trigger targeted coaching, and that's the beauty of an analytics-driven approach, is it uses the analytics to trigger coaching and alerts to agents that need coaching on specific areas. So now on the QA applications, you can add an action. And an action is, if they fall below my goal of 8 out of 10 on this question, I want to automatically send a coaching assignment to the desktop to that agent. So as calls are being evaluated, they're automatically triggering coaching or messages to agents. It could be a reminder message, it could be a quiz, it could be a best practice call that automatically gets triggered. And so supervisors you don't have to rely on each supervisor to remember to provide coaching. They're automatically going to receive coaching at the desktop if they fall below your 8 out of 10 goal or whatever your goal is. Value of targeted coaching, in addition to training, is huge. It's not going to replace training. It's a supplement. But you can see the major benefits here: 27% greater profitability, 56% higher customer loyalty, and agents absolutely love targeted coaching because it's coaching that's specific to their skill gaps, and they're getting, coaching is almost like feedback. They're getting constant feedback on how they can improve themselves. And agents want to do well. We just don't always have the time, or maybe have to cancel coaching often because of high call volume. And this way it doesn't get canceled. They can take it at their desktop when queues are low and at their own pace. And QA is now also integrated with other metrics. So, agents typically in the new QA tools will get scorecards on how they're doing on all their metrics, including QA scores. So, in their real time, as soon as that evaluation is evaluated, they can see how they did on that. Up top is an example of a real-time ticker, and then below is a real-time scorecard. You can see there's average QA, there's a compliance skill in here from the QA form. Basically drag and drop any metrics that are important to your agents or your supervisors into their own custom ticker, and it gives them real-time feedback, and they can see exactly how they're doing on all their metrics and KPIs. And the next issue, I know we have about 10 minutes to go. I want to leave some time for Q&A. The next issue was upsell attempts with no sale. So we looked at that. Conversion rates are pretty low. And so what we do is the next month, let's say we're going to solve upsell attempts with no sale. We're going to add some questions. Why did this call not result in a sale to our QA form? Some of the agent-related issues, they didn't understand the questions asked, and they didn't use the tool or resources effectively to answer the questions. So we're gathering data on why, whenever the agent went into an upsell screen, but we didn't see the sale value. It's not, there was a zero sale value. We knew it was a no sale, and now we're also gathering data related to the no sale on our QA forms. So one of the things, targeted QA evaluation of these calls, we uncovered the root cause of lagging iPhone 4S upsell attempts. The agents were getting a lot of questions they couldn't answer. Can we keep our old number? Can I use a SIM card from another phone? Will the phone work overseas? There's a lot of questions that our agents couldn't answer, and they weren't instilling confidence in the customer for them to purchase additional products. And then typically, another beauty of an analytics-driven approach is there's real-time alerts and messaging built into it. So, this is kind of the control phase, if you will, of Six Sigma, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, and where you want to set up agent-level alerts and department and group-level alerts, where you may be sending alerts if metrics fall below or QA scores fall below certain thresholds, where you're either sending it to management so they can work on, training and coaching the agents, or maybe a customer save team. If there's a repeat call that didn't go well, let's have someone call them back, or a canceled order to try to save the customer. This is a summary of the benefits of analytics-driven QA, and I won't go through each of these, but you can kind of look through them. Again, the presentation will be recorded and the slides will be made available to you, so if you'd like to use them within your organization, to share kind of the difference between the old QA and the new QA and the benefits, we welcome you to do that, and I'd be happy to help out as well in presenting that as well to your team. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for Q&A. I also moderate a LinkedIn group called Call Center Experts. We have about 15,000 members, and it's very active, and we share best practices, and welcome you to join that as well. And we can help you out with any issues that you have there. So, Sherry, you want to maybe open up some of the questions?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions that came in, so let's just get right to it. Should internal QA teams mark soft or communication skills, or should that information be relied on from customer surveys?
Yeah, I mean, typically things like empathy, these kind of softer skills, I recommend having the customer provide that feedback, and a lot of the new QA forms allow you to actually have the customer's feedback go directly into the QA form, so that when they provide feedback on how pleasant was the agent to deal with, or Zappos asks a question, would you hire this agent? That type of information can just be directly populated into the form, and then you kind of get a more balanced approach. The challenge with having soft skills, and there's some skills like communication skills that you may want to include because there's certain types of training and tactics that you're working towards internally. But the problem with including soft skills is you get a lot of kind of disagreement, and then the calibration process becomes a lot harder. It's nice to just have the customer answer or give you their feedback on how they thought it went, because that's really what matters anyways, right, is the customer issues. So.
What time frame would you consider to be timely in regards to delivering feedback?
So, I mean, more and more organizations are sharing feedback as soon as the QA evaluations have been performed, and you don't want to wait till the end of the month to perform them. You want to try to set up a process where it's within a few days, because agents will forget about that interaction. You got to kind of get it while it's fresh in their mind. Even if you don't review it with them within a few days, at least allow them to see how they did and allow them to listen to that interaction and see how you score them, and maybe comment back as to whether that they disagree or agree with everything. A lot of times agents can really figure out what they did wrong just by reviewing, and then the coaching session that you have with the agent after they've already reviewed the evaluation becomes much more productive versus doing it on the spot then, and they just get like a sticker shock because they see their score and they're not listening to anything you say while you're coaching them. So.
Let's see. In addition to first call resolution, do you think next issue avoidance should be monitored as well, or steps taken to give the customer a complete solution versus having them call in a few days with a new question?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic suggestion, and for those of you that haven't considered that, being proactive nowadays is the key. So first call resolution, it kind of, if you have a good first contact resolution strategy, you're actually incorporating the next issue of avoidance into it. So not just solving that issue, but like this person mentioned, really getting proactive. And I've been on calls where I've had companies take me to their website and show me where their FAQ is and show me how to do things proactively on my own, and I really, really appreciate that. And what it does is it allows me to self-serve myself, so I don't even have to contact them again. And it may take a little bit longer and drive up handle time, and that's why you see a lot of organizations kind of going away from handle time. But the value of next issue avoidance is huge, so that's a great point.
Let's see. Do the coaching metrics you shared truly align with coaching by electronic message versus coaching face-to-face?
Yeah, so there's two ways that it works. So you can deliver a electronic message or an e-learning course, if you will. And an e-learning course could be as simple as a video or Word doc with 2 questions at the end to make sure that they understood the content. It may just be a message that they had to acknowledge, and click OK. Maybe it's a reminder message. A lot of times coaching is reminding someone 7 to 12 times on something that they're working on, right? But you can also schedule face-to-face coaching to be delivered. So you can schedule that within the QA form as well. So it's literally just going to track the start time of that coaching session and the end time. But the beauty is you know how much coaching is being performed within your organization, within different departments, within which agents are getting the most agents, what type of coaching are coaches giving the most, And so it's literally, it could be applied to both electronic and live coaching sessions. But the key is to schedule that or assign that coaching when there's a skill gap that's identified within the QA form.
Okay, let's see. We have maybe another minute. A whole bunch just came in. How do you balance analytics to see both positive and negative calls? It can show a larger amount of negative calls, which can bring down QA scores overall and become discouraging to your agents.
Yeah, so typically what you're doing is, so it's a fair process. So if let's say you're focusing on repeat calls, right, where customers have contacted you again. And again, repeat calls is not usually an agent issue. It can be, right, but repeat calls often involve other things that are external to the contact center. So if you're evaluating repeat calls, every agent's handling them. And from their perspective, if they've done everything correctly on the form, you're still evaluating them the same way. You're going to add some other questions to the form on the issues of the repeat calls that don't have to actually apply to their QA scores. So it shouldn't really affect their QA scores. You're not going to I haven't seen that shift where there's much of a shift in the agent's QA score, but you're actually just gathering additional data that are the key drivers for maybe those negative outcomes, if you will. So not necessarily negative calls from an agent perspective, where the agents are doing them any worse than they are handling other calls, but you're getting from a customer experience and from a business, what's important to your business, you're just getting those calls. So you shouldn't see too much of a swing in QA scores. And if anything, that swing is going to be universal among all agents, so you can adjust the way that you weight those questions, so they don't really see that impact. I hope that answers the question, but I'm happy to talk to you about that if you have any more questions on that.
Okay, that's really all the time we have for questions. There is the forum room where you could go in. It's the lounge area on the site. You can go in there. You can discuss these type of issues, and Patrick, I'll bribe you to go in there later on and answer some of these questions. If people have questions they'd like you to answer, go on into the lounge and you can answer it for them. And I know Patrick has to get ready for our next session starting at 3:30, which is a great session on best practices in QA, so you want to make some time for that one as well. So Patrick, let's just wrap up a little, and just 30 seconds. What would you like everyone to remember before they head off to the exhibit hall and go to your booth?
Yeah, I just want each of you to consider really targeting your quality assurance, trying to focus on business and customer issues versus just agent compliance. Start doing that now, even if you don't have analytics in place. But analytics, again, is extremely cost-effective, especially desktop analytics, to allow you to gather more data and tag that to the interactions. And it just adds tremendous value very quickly. The main challenge is just getting your team and your processes aligned to kind of focus on the buckets that matter to you versus just kind of just the way we've been doing it for so long. It's more of just an organizational process change. That's where the biggest challenge is. But the tools are there, and we look forward, on behalf of all of us here at BPI, we look forward to the opportunity to work with you, because, again, the technology is just a tool, but really, getting everything set up correctly is where our strength is and our focus is in partnering with you. So thanks again for your time, and look forward to hopefully seeing you on the next session at 3:30, the QA Best Practices panel.
Hey, Patrick, great session. Thank you, everyone, and we're going to be closing this session so you can run around the exhibit hall virtually with your fingers and then join that 3:30 session. So thank you all for attending. We'll see you in half an hour. Bye.